There's a guy named Jeremy Carl, Mr. Jeremy Carl, who you're seeing on screen there, who had to sit for a hearing in the Senate because he's up for a top State Department job. Now, only problem for him, a lot of his past statements and social media posts have resurfaced where he's saying a lot of white nationalist stuff. Now, you would think, aren't there a lot of people who have said stuff like that who get positions in the administration? Yes, but now that the Senate is getting a little ticked off with some of the members of Trump's administration, I feel like there's more courage to slap down some of these nominees. So this Jeremy Carl one seems to have a difficult path to getting this State Department job. And Democrats at this hearing did a great job of bringing up his statements of like, white people are being replaced and the great replacement theory is real, that the cabal is coordinating mass immigration from brown countries to replace the whites because they hate whites. And it was so brutal to watch Jeremy get dismantled. Because let's just be honest, right? If you make the argument that I think the phrase he used was a cultural genocide against white people in America. If you make a big, bold claim like that, you gotta be ready to back it up. And he was not. He wasn't even able to define what white culture is. Let's watch.
Tell me how you define white identity and what you think is being erased about white identity.
Certain types of Anglo-derived culture that comes from our history.
Like what?
Let me think about this. Senator, I would say if you were to look at the book by one of your former Senate colleagues, Born Fighting, about the sort of Scotch-Irish military culture and certain, pride that went with that, that would be one example. Obviously, you could have sub-elements of that culture. You could have Italians, you could have Irish, and those are in many ways more.
But you're worried about white culture. You're not worried about, you're now retreating to ethnic identity. You don't.
So they're trying to replace whites with immigrants. He goes on in trying to define white culture by citing people who immigrated here and are not white It's like you're describing that even the label you're using is a convergence of people from different ethnic backgrounds. Just the quickest pause to request that you click the subscribe button, the simplest, easiest, freest way, completely free, to support the work that we do. Right below the video, click that subscribe button. Back to the video.
Speak about ethnic identity. You speak about white identity. So tell me the values that stitch together white identity and that make it different than black identity.
I would say that the white church is very different than the black church in terms of its tone and style on average. Foodways could often be different.
Expand on that. I just think that the church has a different tone in black churches versus white churches. Okay, first of all, that's called differences in churches. There's also a very different vibe and tone in this white church versus that white church, if you can describe it that way. Even though if it's just white people, maybe you go, why are there only white people at this church? But I know what you mean. A predominantly white church versus a predominantly black church. But that's the same thing between a predominantly white church of this sect versus that sect. And like I've tried during a Catholic mass before to go, amen, which was totally fine in one of the more non-denominational churches I was in. In the Catholic Church, they didn't like it. They didn't like it at all, okay? Just kidding.
Yeah.
And those
music could be different.
And those are being erased.
Music could be different. Well, if you look at the Super Bowl halftime show, which was not in English.
So our ability to access white churches or white food or white music is being erased?
I am concerned with the majority common American culture that we had for some time that through particularly mass immigration, I think has become much more balkanized, and I think that weakens us. And again, I'm not running away from that comment. I'm not apologizing for it.
Well, I'm way over my time. I think you're struggling to answer this question, right? Because underlying your beliefs is a sentiment that white culture is just simply better.
Well, definitely he's arguing that, which if you're going to argue that, then say it. Say what it is. He said, did he start referencing food? Sir, sir, don't you start your argument about white superiority with food, okay? It's not gonna work, I can tell you. Or music. It's so funny because the things that he's referencing are absolutely reasons why America is so special and unique. But inherent to that is a convergence of ethnicities and cultures, not an exclusion of that diversity. The reason why I love all these different American food options, and by American I mean foods you commonly find in America, is because none of them are American foods. They're all different foods for all different places and all different backgrounds, and then it blends together and you get like Tex-Mex. What? You get to fill your belly with melted cheese and then have fajitas? Yes, please. Okay. Yeah. Or music. American culture and cultural landmarks, movies, music, innovation, are globally dominant. True. There's no entertainment. There's no, as I referenced, all the things I'm saying, music and culture, that is as present globally as America's. But what defines that is very necessarily immigrant-based. Is, oh, don't cringe, it's true, is melting pot, baby. That's why we have the best in all these different categories. Because it's like you smush it together and then the best part of it comes out at the top. It's so cool. And you try to say food. I went to, and I say this with love to our whites out there. I say it with absolute love. I went to a place that was mostly white in a different part of the world. I tried to eat the food. It's just potatoes in different configurations. Have you heard of paprika? Have you heard of a spice in much in your life? Oh my gosh. Oh no, but I'm not going to actually cite specific food. Some of you will get mad. The food was essentially, here's what your mouth tastes like if there was more mass in it. There was nothing. So I say it with absolute love. We love our white Americans. We love our black Americans. We love et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But if you deny how the convergence of identities has defined American culture in a major way, then you're kidding yourself. You really are. Now, advocating for a common American set of principles is beautiful. It's not that we shouldn't feel like we have a shared culture at all. We should. There can be diversity of culture, but a common dedication to certain aspects of our country's ideals. Great. And that's important. But this whole like white is a uniform culture and white people are being replaced in America is just incoherent. It's incoherent, and you saw it there. He struggled to even defend it. And then another senator jumps in. So that was Chris Murphy. Then Tim Kaine jumps in and goes, all right, Chris, hold my beer. Let me at this guy.
One of the things you said was American whites are victims of a cultural genocide. Where to start? So you'd agree with me, wouldn't you, that whites are pretty well represented in the United States Senate?
They are well represented in this body, yes.
And how about in the House of Representatives?
Senator Kaine, I don't have those particular numbers. However,
but you would agree that they're pretty well represented in the House of Representatives.
Senator, I would, again, thank you for the question. I would point out that there were no white Protestants by birth in the 25 cabinet members under Joe Biden.
How about in the ranks of American presidents throughout history, including now pretty well represented whites?
Senator.
And how about in the ranks of vice presidents during American history now? Whites pretty well represented in that group, right?
Senator, thank you again for the question.
Yeah. I don't think it's hard. How about on the United States Supreme Court? Throughout our history and including now, whites are pretty well represented on the United States Supreme Court, correct?
I think obviously historically, I would of course agree with you. Of course, the vast majority of Americans were white at that time. It's now a much more diverse society.
Let's focus on right now. How about in the ranks of American governors? You think whites are pretty well represented?
I would just have to look at the numbers. I don't know.
Okay, how about this? In the ranks of CEOs of major corporations today, you think whites are pretty well represented?
Senator, thank you for the question. I suspect that they are probably pretty well represented in that. But there are other areas where they're not as well represented.
How about in the ranks of high-income people? And we can define it however you want. Let's just say like top 10% of wealthy Americans. You think whites are pretty well represented?
Senator, thank you for the question. They would certainly be underrepresented with respect to Asian Americans, but they would be overrepresented with respect to other groups.
Yeah. You know, a cultural genocide, that's a stiff claim. And it's an interesting one because it's kind of a white victimhood argument. But if I remember my colleague, Senator Rosen, she was reading comments to you where you had been saying, man, Jews play the victim. Jews like to be the victim. And yet you're making a claim that whites are victimized by a cultural genocide when all the statistics would say, not just in history, but today, that whites are very well represented at every level of every institution. They're very well represented in the incomes of Americans. And that doesn't mean each person is high income or each person is a Supreme Court justice, but you could look institution after institution in this country, and the facts completely rebut the notion that whites are victimized by a cultural genocide.
So it was a good specification there, because one of the things that alienated some people, which you don't want to do, is pretending like just because you're a white guy, your life must be amazing. That's not the message. Plenty of white people are oppressed by our system economically, plenty. And any economic advocacy, just so you know, MAGAs out there, is seeking to, for my liberal ideals, uplift you as well, okay? So just because sometimes we will speak about historical or systemic racialized oppression doesn't ignore that your life can also be subject to a broken system, and we want to help you too, okay? The point he's making is that if this guy, now I'm already remembering, it was his name boring? What was his name? Jeremy Carl. Kind of sounds the same. Was it, what, who was on the street? Was his name Crybaby? Oh wait, no, that was Jeremy Carl, sorry. The idea that there is this systematic oppression of white Americans that Mr. I'm forgetting what his name is. Bitch boy, what was this? Oh, sorry, Jimmy Carl. I'm so sorry. I actually forgot his name. Is silly. You're being silly. Now, a little side note. A lot of these like white nationalist people look goofy. Maybe we say. Maybe we leave it there. Maybe we say that it's weird to me that the people saying we need to bring back a strong white culture, then the strength of our country will be enhanced against all data, don't look very enhanced. I'd say not very enhanced, Jeremy, is where I would sort of put that. And then he says, hey, Chris Murphy, you're saying that white people don't have a unique culture? Did you not see the Turning Point USA halftime show? Because as you're going to watch here, I saw something pretty culturally cool. Hypocrite Trump was busted showing Bad Bunny's show at his own Super Bowl party. Trump posted,
"The Super Bowl halftime show is absolutely terrible. One of the worst ever. Nobody understands a word this guy's saying, and the dancing is disgusting."
The most dancing I saw was just... Here's Benny Johnson.
Turning Point just mogged the NFL tonight.
All right, well then let's check in on the deep creativity from this artist at the Turning Point halftime show.
I just want to catch my fish, drive my truck, drink my beer.
I had never heard, which was so profound about this, a country music artist talking about their truck, beer, fishing, and hunting. I'm a little sad, and I've been bad. As I sit in my truck, sometimes while I'm fishing, I say what? When I think about a white lady's butt. That artist that was shown there seems pretty culturally unique to me. Okay. Now, something that made me laugh so much was literally, you can't go out anymore as a country music artist and say, I want to fish, hunt, drink a beer, sit in the truck with a woman. Like, that's been done too many times, okay? It's been done too many times. And it just becomes a meme. So that's what he says, right? Then someone wrote, I just want to, because he says catch my fish, but it sounds like he said kiss my fish. And someone wrote alternative lyrics. I just want to kiss my fish, drive my beer, drink my truck, F my sister. Which is not the lyrics of this song. But some people thought it was headed in that direction.
I just want to kiss my fish, drive my beer, drink my trunk. I wake up to all this stuff and it makes me queer.
No, we're not making fun. It's he's probably a nice guy. I'm not. It's just funny, you know. There's some of these things just make you laugh.
I just want to catch my fish.
Yeah, why does he say it like he's kissing his fish? Doesn't make any sense. All right, then Cory Booker jumps in to have his chance at Mr. Jeremy.
That somehow you think our country's greatness depends upon its ethnic diversity as long as white people have more numbers than others. That does not sound like a nation that was founded with the belief that all people are created equal and equal before the eyes of God. It sounds like you have a racial hierarchy. There's no way for me to read this in any other way.
Senator,
you have said our country, based upon religious diversity, based upon ethnic diversity, based upon racial diversity, you have indicated that somehow those make America weaker or stronger. That God forbid our nation grows in population, that then you suddenly say, I'm aggrieved, and they are trying to replace us. This is the United States of America. We are one nation under God, but you cut us up and divide us along racial lines.
Senator, respectfully, I do not think that they do.
You cannot use the word respectfully, because you do not respect me.
Oh,
you
no,
look
actually,
upon
I do.
me as my color of my skin. You say holidays like Juneteenth are racial hustles. Don't come here and hustle me.
Senator,
you have said statements that other nations are going to look upon you and read plainly. When you go to a country of a different religion or ethnicity, you have discriminated against Jews in your writing, you have discriminated against others, and then you claim yourself as a victim. Mr. Chairman, I've never seen such a blatantly racist individual who doesn't even deny that he's made these statements.
So, anywho, I think you get the point. That was, you see why he was on the verge of tears the entire time, Mr. Carl. Jeremy Carl, again with the two first names. It's like, what are we doing? Get a last name, dude. Okay. Then come talk to me about your culture. All right. No, and it's not that, again, it's not that culture's not a thing. Culture is a thing. Absolutely. Let me tell you about my culture. I can't think of a darn thing when I kiss my fish. But identifying a culture as the same thing as race is where you get into that racial hierarchy, dangerous ideology. Culture, an American culture, but there's also different cultures within that, but broader principles and individual liberty, and sort of there is like an American go-getter mentality, right? But really fundamentally, patriotism, to me, is largely informed by the ability of different people of different backgrounds to be patriotic for what America is supposed to stand for. And so then it's not that you don't regulate immigration and make sure that people have time to actually become a part of a community so that you don't have too broken up of people based on different identities and all that. It's all good. You want it. You got to think thoughtfully about that. You couldn't just invite every single person from the world to the United States all of a sudden. But his ideology goes so much further than just pragmatics. It's about the principle of white superiority. That's what it is.